Introduce our keynote. Dr. Rellermeyer. He's a research scientist and mobile solutions subject matter expert at IBM, an expert in mobile devices and supporting software. He joined IBM Research in 2011. He focuses on systems and software for mobile devices as well as the supporting backends in the cloud data center. Dr. Rellermeyer has been the invited researcher of the OSGI Alliance and continues to work in the OSGI Core Platform and Enterprise Expert Group. He's a member of ACM, Sigma, ACM, SigSoft, the IEEE Computer Society, and Eurosys. Dr. Rellermeyer frequently presents both scientific and technical conferences and is a sought-after speaker on mobile technology's impact to businesses. Dr. Rellermeyer has his master's degree in CS Distributed Systems from ETH Zurich, Switzerland, and his PhD in Computer Science in the Systems Group at ETH. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Rellermeyer.
Okay, thank you very much for the kind introduction, and I would like to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about what in IBM we are calling mobile first. And just to clarify, yes, there is a product called IBM Mobile First, and it was created in response to the idea of Mobile First that IBM Research was instrumental in developing. So, okay, I think we have to change this. No, all right. Maybe we can just change it. All right. So nowadays, every presentation about mobile starts with kind of the same slide, and it's about the explosive growth of mobile. There are these nice infographics that teach us how long it took for traditional technology to reach a certain number of users, and you see the exponential growth of mobile basically leads to a situation where you reach the same kind of user base within days that used to take years. For things like the TV or for radio. Or we can talk about the number of mobile devices that we have out in the world. And usually the conclusion is that this is an unprecedented growth that we've never seen before. Those are all facts, so we can't really argue about them. But of course we can argue whether or not this has been unprecedented. And some people take the position that, well, you know, we have been there before. Because we came from an era where the mainframe was the dominating paradigm, and we had dumb terminal, and this was completely disrupted by the emergence of the personal computer. Putting more logic into the client side and no longer relying on a single piece of big iron was a dramatic shift. And if we look at the sales numbers of mainframes and the sales numbers of personal computers, indeed, that's exponential growth, you know. We've seen the web era, and by web, I mean the internet, even before we had mobile devices around, was an exponential growth. You know? The number of users that we were able to connect within very short time was unprecedented at the time. At the same time, if you look at the kind of devices, the more we get to the recent development, the more we must admit that we have been much more successful in penetrating markets that haven't been in markets before. You know? Let's just talk about China. I don't think we really sold a lot of mainframes in China in those days. You know? Nowadays, you cannot talk about the web, the internet, or mobile devices anymore without talking about growth markets like China or India. So, in some sense, you can really think that this is just the next logical step in a chain of disrupting trends that keep on repeating. And there's nothing really special about mobile, just that we also have to do it. You know, it's another outlet that follows the web era, and once we have captured this value, we are fine. I think that's very dangerous, and that's what in IBM we call the mobile also paradigm. You know, just creating another outlet to our existing value proposition through mobile, and we're fine. Our point of view is that this is not correct. This is not a viable strategy, and what instead we're talking about is mobile first, centering our business around the principle of mobile, as opposed to just adding mobile capabilities. So, one thing that normally people talk about in terms of challenging aspects of the emergence of mobile devices is BYOD, bring your own device. In some sense, this is just, again, a logical consequence, because if you think about how we deal with amortization and capital costs, we just cannot keep up with the changes in mobile anymore. And if we try to keep the same strategy that we use, for example, to employ to equip our employees with laptop computers, by the time that we think it's amortized, they've already used this as a kind of something else, but not a mobile device anymore. Because it's completely obsolete. So people are bringing their own mobile devices into the enterprises, and of course there's an entire set of challenges attached to it. If we go from bottom to top, the first question is, how do I efficiently support the applications that now run on a mobile device? We used to come from a world where Windows was the default in enterprise, and we learned that we also have to deliver our applications through Mac and Linux. And now we have iOS and Android, and even more important than this, we have a much more heterogeneous set of devices. There's of course a question of network security. Now we are delivering the content, the core data of our enterprises through channels that we can no longer control. It's no longer just some installation on our campus that we have full control over, but we need to use public infrastructure in order to communicate. So that's indeed the security aspect. And then, of course, there's the security aspect of mobile devices themselves, that they can easily be stolen, and we need to protect our assets. My point would be, I think we're already successful in doing this for laptop computers. It got a little bit more complicated with mobile devices, but I trust that we can solve these challenges. And as far as my role, my personal role is concerned, idea research, of course, we need to advance technology and help the companies come up with new things. But at the same time, we also need to consult them on how good our products are with regard to the market. And I think in this range of problems, we are relatively well positioned. We have products like WorkLife that help you to deal with these challenges. The much harder challenge is what I call BYD. And this is really bring your expectations. People nowadays come with their own expectations from the experience of using mobile devices at home. And they have this expectation, and this expectation collides with our interpretation of how enterprise software and enterprise systems are structured. If you look at something easy and crude like a thermostat, this is basically the same design for decades. We kind of changed the display to now the LED, and it got a little bit more complicated. But before mobile devices were around, people were happily using these devices. This has dramatically changed since the emergence of mobile. Nowadays, many people are into these kind of things. Not only are they much more nicely designed, and they closely resemble the design strategies of mobile devices. That's a completely connected device. It is connected to the internet. It has a proxy in the cloud that I can talk to with my mobile device, and I can control my home installation from anywhere I want. Take this as a paradigm that we'll see again and again when we talk about mobile in the enterprise. To generalize this a little bit more, what really is the core focus of mobile is that people are used to this idea that there's an app for it. There's a simple, focused, instantaneous, and always connected solution that helped me achieve the goal that I currently want to achieve. And now contrast this with our idea of enterprise applications. They are vastly more complex. They are so general that they will not only solve your current problems, but all 700 problems that you might or might not have in the future. But they come at the cost of being very configuration intensive, and usually they are firewall. They work well within our infrastructure, but they fail to adopt to an outside world where our workforce is increasingly using mobile technology from everywhere in the world. So this is just one example of how bringing your expectations about mobile technology into the enterprise clashes with reality, and where we think we have to rethink the way how we structure the enterprise. We could talk about other things like something that has been unprecedented, really been unprecedented, is that the mobile device is much more a personal device than a personal computer ever was. You could also consider it as a one-to-one electronic proxy of a person's identity, because it's connected to the person through a mobile contract most of the time. So you can use it for things like e-commerce, obviously. But it also gives you a lot of sensor data. It gives you the ability to deliver contextualized solutions. None of this is the core domain of enterprise applications. I think it's time for kind of an executive summary about what we're calling mobile first. Mobile first to us is the idea that we have to rethink our business model, or we as a company who basically assists other companies, we have to help the enterprise to rethink their business models all around mobile. That's the first paradigm. We have to help businesses to constantly to help their employees being constantly connected, but at the same time also their customers. Because this expectation that I talked about for employees, the same happens with customers. I personally do not business anymore with companies who fail to deliver their value, or at least present their value through at least a web page, if not even the mobile device. I don't want to talk to sales agents anymore because I want to have the information and judge it myself. That's how to do business with my generation, right? And this is something that is more disruptive than just the growth of mobile devices as such. It's a shift in strategy. So we can talk about the challenges, and why not take a concrete example that I have gone through with my group in Austin Research. We are primarily interested in forward thinking about what mobile enterprise applications could look like. And we took a classic example, and this is system management. System management is traditionally a domain where we had very, very large and configuration-intensive products that would be used by a small set of domain experts. And our way of designing these products is to give all possible information to this domain expert, and the domain expert would have the expertise to judge about the state of the system based on whatever we can present. Okay? This is our solution for mobile system management. So we took our Blade Center's line of products and created a mobile application that would read the standard data that all our devices currently emit, which is through the system management interface. And we tried to find ways how we could present this kind of content to an everyday user. So no longer just a system administrator, but if you're running your scientific workload on a specific cluster, you have a genuine interest to know about the health of the cluster because you want to know if the experiment really failed or it was just one blade in your entire Blade Center that had a bad memory. That's really, really important nowadays. So if you look at what we came up with, you will notice that many of these challenges are actually user interface challenges. How can you present such a dense set of data in a way that you structure it around the relevance to a specific person? It's no longer that I present you a large list of all kind of centers that I can read, and you have to scroll through it. That's a completely unacceptable paradigm in terms of mobile, because we have a very restricted screen reading these days, and pretty much we have a relatively restricted attention span that we can expect from people that are using mobile devices. If you want to put it that way, if you fail to deliver your value within a certain amount of time as a business, you will get zapped away because somebody else might be much better than that, and he wins the competition. So this particular application touches many, many UI challenges, and you see that we kind of try to model our application after what the hardware looks like. So we have pictures of the hardware, and you can touch individual blades, and then you can drill down into the stators. And we're trying to propagate health information all the way up into these pictures so that you see red icons if any of your blade has a failure and so on, just to assist people finding out about the state of the system. But at the same time, this is a very demanding application because we use this with hundreds of servers and we don't use any middle tier. So you're directly talking to all the machines, and that's of course pretty challenging in terms of network consumption and in the end battery. That's another important aspect. We cannot just afford arbitrary communication in order to deliver value. This particular application is a trade-off between fidelity and battery runtime. So we tested this application. It's really available on the Android App Store, Google Play Store, and the iOS App Store. It used to rank at 64 of all iOS free business apps, which is pretty remarkable for an application that is by itself very specialized. And we tested it with a couple of customers. And guess what? They really liked it. They liked it so much that, of course, they wanted more, And what they wanted more was exactly the kind of things that social networks bring into mobile. They wanted to be able to effectively communicate about the state of the system with their peers so that they can point out problems and send their interpretation to somebody else. They wanted to see who has already looked at the problem, these kind of things. And this brings us to a very, very important distinction, which is the kind of systems that we have used to build in the past are all systems of records. Systems of records are kind of the transactional systems where you need to capture something that happened in reality very accurately. And you're all focused around not losing this data and being sound in what you capture. You know? What we see more and more becoming important in mobile is what we call system of engagement. This is reaching out, this is the social angle of applications, reaching out to users, building relationship with users. You know? And this is what makes mobile so challenging, but at the same time, that's a big opportunity of mobile. Being able to talk directly to a customer, being able to send contextualized alerts is something very, very powerful that we have not seen in the same way in previous areas of computing. And of course, last but not least, we have been very, very early in talking about what people nowadays call the Internet of Things, and in fact, we invented this term. We are seeing more and more devices being smart and being actors or centers in this kind of composition. So the challenge of mobile is to bring all these pieces together. You know? Being able to connect to customers, being able to connect to employees, being able to connect to the traditional systems of records that we need in our enterprises, and being able to consume all this input and the possibilities of outputs that we see in the area of Internet of Things. And this is really a composition problem of services, of cloud, of many, many pieces. So, just to add some numbers to this problem, you know, we see systems of records, maybe a little bit broader interpreted, to just explode. You know, the amount of data that we produce every day is almost mind-boggling. So that's what we usually tend to call big data and analytics. You know? Being able to create insight from this vast amount of data is something very, very important. And there's almost no better outlet, but there's also no better inlet for that than mobile. You know? Most of this data that is growing exponentially is born in the cloud. It exists because people interact with the cloud, with the internet. So the natural way of consuming the cloud, to me, is really mobile. There's no better way. We see that the amount of penetration that we have in terms of social networks among Generation Y is, you know, almost at the point of saturation. Not being able to deliver a social angle in mobile applications is a true disadvantage. And if you generalize it, not being able to deliver a social angle in enterprise application is a true disadvantage. And this is an area that is just starting to take off in its full entirety. We already have 9.6 billion connected devices, but the way how they are connected is far away from what we envision. And we hope to see much more interesting applications the more these platforms become open and consumable to the general mobile. So, again, just 2 points out of the variety of challenges and opportunities that we see in mobile. One thing to notice is the reason why we think that mobile should be first in your design is 91% of mobile users keep their device within arm's reach 100% of the time. This is nothing that you could even say about personal computers. You know? This is just a complete game changer. And then another thing, like 75% of mobile shoppers take action after receiving a location-based message. Just think how disruptive such a channel is to our traditional business of advertising, our traditional way of engaging with customers. So what we say is, you know, business with anyone, anytime, anywhere is business in motion. And business in motion is really mobile. There's no alternative. And the reason why we think that you need to think mobile first is that if you just try to deliver the same identical kind of value proposition through a mobile device, you will emphasize all the restrictions of the mobile device. You will face the challenges that we've seen in adopting mobile internet. And the reason was that if you just present your content in a way that is not consumable, people will just not use it. You know? You cannot just take paradigms from desktop computers and map them to mobile devices. You fail to reach your target audience. We have to design our applications with mobile as the target, and with mobile as the center. And then we can deliver it through additional elements. So just to go through a couple of small examples, we've been working with this company who is a manufacturer in Great Britain. And the way how they have employed mobile is maybe the most obvious way. They ship their products directly to the customers, and by equipping all their drivers with mobile devices and building a system of engagement between their drivers, they were able to make 68% more shipments per day, and at the same time greatly increase their customer experience. Because now that customers also have a way to communicate with the company continuously through mobile devices, they feel much more that their convenience and values are prioritized over processes. And that's, to me, the greatest fallacy of all the other outlets. We tended to build web applications or desktop applications and model them after our business processes. This is no longer acceptable in mobile. Mobile needs to focus on the value proposition and not on the processes that drive the value proposition. Another example, we've been working with Rellermeyer, and we've provided a nice set of mobile applications that accompany this tournament. And this is just one example out of many how mobile as an outlet can complement other outlets and lead to an omni-channel experience. People in the stadium will have the mobile device, and while they're watching the tennis match, they're getting our analytics, they're getting our interpretation of the game. So, as a business, this business is very successful in directly engaging with their customers, with providing a value that is unique. Another example, retail. Retail is one of the most obvious ways where we can improve through mobile devices. People are no longer interested to go through some meta search engines or whatever. They want mobile applications that help them finding what they want. And once I've attracted somebody into my store, I can use the mobile outlet to direct them to whatever they are looking for. But I can also influence them. I also get feedback through their mobile device. I get feedback, how long have they been standing in front of a certain product? Maybe they're considering to buy it. I can deliver personalized coupons to this person the next time that they enters the store, maybe right away. This is just another example of how the paradigm of mobile first, thinking about the mobile outlet as a way to engage with the customer, is really changing the game. I think I skipped over this one in the interest of time. And just summarize the message that I tried to convey. So, mobile first is really about transforming strategy and operational business. Thinking of the mobile device as a platform on which people want to communicate about things and enabling this kind of communication. It's about using mobile as a way to build loyalty and to engage, to build long-standing relationships directly with customers or directly with employees. It's about leveraging analytics to build a richer body of information about the behavior of customers. And in this regard, it is about consuming all the insights that we can create out of this data. The challenges that we have seen supporting bring your own device, I personally think we will be able to cope with this very well. And of course, there's a security angle that I don't want to downplay. But I think we are relatively far in solving these kind of things. All right. Thank you very much. And I'm happy to take questions.
I just want to ask you for this song that I provided for customer service here. What is the measure progress generally?
Sorry, asking
Can you
me
repeat the question?
Yeah.
Yes, my question is, why is technology progress, maybe any achievement in past 30 years since 2000 until right now, in generally, also in your company?
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I presented this kind of technology roadmap that started with mainframes and went on to personal computers and kind of ended in mobile. This is indeed not the end. But if you look at this from our perspective, IBM has been relatively successful in each of these steps of transformations. We used to dominate the mainframe market, but we were able to transition to personal computers. And in fact, for very long, people would talk about personal computers as IBM competitors. The same, we kind of invented the idea of e-business as such. And of course, we trademarked it so that everybody now has to talk about e-commerce and no longer e-business, right? So I think we were very, very good in understanding these challenges. And that's why to us, it's no question that we need to think about mobile, because to us, it's clear that this is the next step. And if you talk about IBM, it's very, very interesting with what speed and energy the company is pushing towards this mobile transformation. It's a very, very serious business. We measure ourselves basically through the success of our clients, because we are no longer interacting with customers. We're no longer delivering consumer products. So if we are successful in helping our clients transform into a mobile world, and I think we are, we have data points that show that we are, that's our measurement of success in this area.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Once?
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.